Hello, everyone. Welcome to our channel. Today, we're diving into one of the darkest and most unsettling mysteries inside the mind of Jeffrey Dahmer, serial killer's chilling jailhouse interview. Get ready, because this story is packed with shocking revelations and eerie moments that will keep you hooked until the very end. So, let's jump right in. Alright, picture this. You're sitting across from a guy who looks completely normal, kind of shy, soft-spoken, maybe even polite. But then he starts talking about eating people. Yeah, eating them. This isn't a horror movie. This is Jeffrey Dahmer, one of the most infamous serial killers in history. And today, we're diving into his chilling jailhouse interview. Stick around, because what he revealed will make your skin crawl. So, who is Jeffrey Dahmer, really? On the surface, he looked like any regular guy, worked a 9 to 5, had a quiet life. But underneath, he was a monster hiding in plain sight. Over 13 years, he killed 17 people in ways so horrifying it's hard to even talk about. But in his interviews, he didn't hold back. Here's the thing about Dahmer, he didn't come off as some raging lunatic. He spoke softly, almost like he was confessing to stealing candy, not, cannibalizing his victims. That's what makes him so terrifying. The evil wasn't in his voice, it was in his actions. It all started in 1978. Dahmer was just 18 when he picked up his first victim. A young man named Stephen Hicks, who was just looking for a ride. Dahmer later said he didn't plan it, but the urge hit him, and he gave in. One moment of madness started a 13-year killing spree. When asked why he kept his victims' remains, Dahmer calmly explained it was his way of keeping them with him forever. Imagine hearing that. How do you even process something so twisted? And he didn't flinch as he said it, like it was the most normal thing in the world. Here's what'll keep you up at night. Dahmer was almost caught, twice. First, when police found a terrified 14-year-old boy trying to escape his apartment. They let Dahmer talk his way out of it. Think about that. If they'd acted, how many lives could have been saved? A year later, a neighbor called the cops about strange smells coming from Dahmer's place. They came, they knocked, and left. Inside that apartment, freezers full of body parts. How does someone get away with that? It's a question that haunts people to this day. Dahmer admitted in the interview that his fantasies started when he was just a teenager. He didn't act on them at first, but they grew darker and darker until they completely took over his life. He described it like a storm building in his mind. Okay, this part's not for the faint of heart. Dahmer admitted to eating some of his victims. When asked why, he said it made him feel like they'd become a part of him. It wasn't about hunger, it was about control, about never letting them leave. His neighbors always knew something was off. They'd complain about the smell, hear weird noises at night, but nothing ever came of it. Can you imagine living next to someone like that and having no idea what's really going on? In 1991, Dahmer's reign of terror finally ended when one of his victims, Tracy Edwards, escaped and flagged down the police. When they entered Dahmer's apartment, it was like stepping into a horror movie, Polaroids of dismembered bodies, barrels with acid, and that infamous freezer. In his interview, Dahmer talked about the freezer like it was just another piece of furniture. Inside were severed heads, body parts, things too gruesome to describe. And yet, he explained it all without blinking. Here's the weird part, Dahmer didn't even try to deny what he'd done. He confessed to everything, down to the smallest detail. When asked why, he said he wanted to be honest, to help people understand what made him do it. But can you ever really understand someone like that? When asked if he felt bad about what he'd done, Dahmer said he didn't, at least not at first. He said it was only after his arrest that he started to feel guilt. Imagine doing something so horrific and feeling nothing for years. In one chilling moment, Dahmer said, "I never wanted to kill them. I just wanted them to stay." That one sentence sums up the twisted logic behind his crimes. He didn't see his victims as people, they were objects, possessions. Dahmer admitted he was almost always drunk when he committed his crimes. He said it dulled the fear, made it easier to go through with what he was doing. But let's be real, alcohol doesn't make you a killer. That darkness was already inside him. Dahmer targeted young men, often from marginalized communities. He knew they'd be less likely to be missed. It's another layer of his calculated evil. He preyed on society's blind spots. Imagine being the parents of Dahmer's victims, waiting for years, hoping your child will come home, only to find out they were murdered in the most horrific way possible. The grief is unimaginable. Dahmer's own father wrote a book trying to understand what turned his son into a monster. He described feeling both guilt and confusion, wondering if he missed the warning signs. Can you imagine that kind of heartbreak? Dahmer's lawyers argued he was insane, that no sane person could do the things he did. But the jury didn't buy it. They ruled he knew exactly what he was doing, and he was sentenced to life in prison. In prison, Dahmer reportedly showed no fear, no shame. He even joked about his crimes with other inmates, earning himself the nickname the Milwaukee Monster. But his time behind bars wouldn't last long. In 1994, Dahmer was beaten to death by a fellow inmate. Some saw it as justice, others as an escape. Either way, it marked the end of one of America's most infamous killers. Even now, decades later, people still ask, how did Dahmer become the monster he was? Was it his upbringing? His genetics? Or something else entirely? The answers remain as unsettling as his crimes. Recently, Dahmer's story got a second life thanks to Netflix. But while some saw it as a fascinating character study, others criticized it for glorifying a monster. What do you think? Does telling his story help, or does it hurt? If there's one takeaway from Dahmer's story, it's that warning signs matter. The obsession with death, the isolation, the lack of empathy, these are things that need to be addressed before it's too late. Why are we so obsessed with Dahmer? Is it morbid curiosity? Or are we trying to understand the darkness within ourselves? Either way, his story continues to captivate and terrify. Many of the victims' families have spent their lives trying to honor their loved ones, ensuring they're remembered as more than just names in Dahmer's story. Their fight for justice and recognition is inspiring. Dahmer's case has been studied endlessly by psychologists, criminologists, and true crime fans. But even with all the analysis, one question remains: can you ever truly understand evil? The jailhouse interview has become one of the most chilling pieces of true crime media. It's not just what Dahmer said, it's how he said it. Calm, cold, and utterly devoid of humanity. Jeffrey Dahmer's story isn't just about his crimes, it's about the lives he destroyed, the justice system that failed, and the darkness that lurks in humanity. And that's what makes it so haunting. The families of Dahmer's victims didn't let his crimes define their loved ones. They've spent decades sharing stories, building memorials, and ensuring the world remembers their names, not just his. The media frenzy around Dahmer's case wasn't just about the crimes, it was about the shock. Headlines screamed about cannibalism and horror, but at what cost? Did the attention help, or did it glorify him? Dahmer's story has inspired countless movies, books, and documentaries. But why does it stick with us? Is it the sheer brutality, or the fact that someone so normal-looking could do something so horrific? Here's the big question: should we even tell stories like Dahmer's? Do they educate us, or do they risk turning monsters into legends? It's a debate that has no easy answers. So, after all this, what do you think? Was Dahmer's evil something he was born with, or something that grew over time? His story leaves us with more questions than answers, and maybe that's what makes it so terrifying. Hey everyone! I hope this video brought you something valuable or insightful. Here on our channel, we've got fresh content every single day, always made with care to keep you informed and entertained. If you enjoyed it, I just ask for a quick favor: hit that subscribe button, drop a like to show your support, and leave your suggestions in the comments. We love hearing your ideas and creating the content you want to see. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video.